Welcome, everybody, to Bible Bites. I'm Pastor Dan, and we're reading through the Bible one small bite at a time. Now, we've been in Matthew 22, chapter 22, for a few videos. We're going to continue today in chapter 22. Pretty much this whole chapter is Jesus addressing the religious and political leaders of his day. Oftentimes, they would send people to him to try to trap him. It's hard to say whether today's reading is meant to be a trap for him. Probably, but we can't say for sure. So, the reading today, the Sadducees, a political religious group called the Sadducees, are coming to him. And Matthew tells us right up front that the Sadducees don't believe in a resurrection, which is different than, say, the Pharisees who did believe in a resurrection. So let's go ahead and begin here, verse 23. The same day, Sadducees came to him, who say there is no resurrection. And they asked him a question, saying, Teacher, Moses said if a man dies having no children, his brother must marry the widow and raise up offspring for his brother. So the specific question has to do with this law. And I realize that this law today sounds crazy to us, but it wasn't crazy back then. It was a serious law, and I don't know how often it was honestly practiced or not, and there are good reasons, I think, for this law, and but it was a law in Israel in that day. Verse 25. So they're beginning to give Jesus the scenario now, the question. Now there were 7 brothers among us. The first married and died, having no offspring, left his wife to his brother. So to the second and third, down to the 7th. After them all, the woman died. In the resurrection, therefore, of the 7, whose wife will she be? For they all had her. So the scenario, if you didn't understand it, is this. There's 7 brothers. The first brother marries this gal, has no children with her, he dies. The second brother marries this gal, has no children with her. The third brother marries her, and so on, all the way through 7. They all marry her, none have children with her. So the question is then, in the resurrection, whose wife will she be? Because all 7 had her as a spouse before the resurrection, right? And here's Jesus' answer. But Jesus answered them, you are wrong. Oh, wow. Okay, so he just right away shows them that they aren't even thinking right about this. He says, because you know neither the scriptures nor the power of God. Wow, he's saying now this is a group that should know the scriptures. They studied the scriptures often. They were the teachers of the scriptures. And he's saying you don't really understand the scriptures, nor do you recognize the power of God. And here's the reason they don't recognize the power of God, because they don't believe in the resurrection, right? But he says, for in the resurrection, excuse me, they neither marry nor are given in marriage, but are like angels in heaven. So this is one way that they are thinking wrong. The resurrection life is different than life here and now. And as for the resurrection of the dead, have you not read what was said to you by God? I am the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. He is not God of the dead, but of the living. So Jesus' point here is, listen, you don't even believe in the resurrection. You're thinking wrong, because if God is truly a God of Abraham, Jacob, and Isaac, that's ridiculous, because in your view, in the Sadducees' view, right, these are just dead people that don't even exist anymore. But no, he's a God of the living. These are people who've been raised to life. So the crowds, when the crowds heard it, they were astonished at his teaching. So here in this reading, we're actually given a glimpse of the resurrection life. And we have all kinds of questions about what this resurrection life is like. And so we see a small glimpse here, but really we look at Jesus Christ, who was raised from the dead, and and when we think of what the resurrection life is, we look at him and we say, okay, this is the closest example really that we have to resurrection life. All right, until our next video, which will begin in verse 34, be blessed.